Wow. Welcome everybody. Today is International Women's Day, but it's great that we're all here to talk about International Women's Day, peel it to bits and talk about whether or not it really is worthwhile us celebrating International Women's Day, given that we're Pacific. We live here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and as Pasifika women, we're doing our bit in the world to empower our women and accelerate progress. So, yeah, that's just me. You all know who I am. But I think it's a really good opportunity for all of us to introduce ourselves on camera and let everybody know who we are, why we're here, and what our part that we play in empowering our women, so that we, and through our empowerment of women, how we're accelerating progress and what that progress looks like. So we'll start off with you, Anna. Bula.
Bula, Nissan Bula Vanaka. My name's Anna Pickering and I work for NCPC Aotearoa New Zealand Sex Workers Collective. I've been involved in human rights and sex worker rights I think for like 24 years, and I'm Fijian, and my parents immigrated here many years ago in the 60s, 70s, and I'm first generation born in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and you're very privileged to be here, and happy International Women's Day, everybody.
Thank you.
Afi. Malula Barisofua. I'm Afi Sapolu. I currently work at Te Tuatawahi Volunteer Service Abroad, but my background is more public health, community development. Also first generation New Zealand born Samoan gal from the beautiful villages of Whalealupo, Waiala and Wata. Grateful to be here and listen to you guys talk all morning. Roy, tell us about yourself.
Come on, don't giggle at the end there. Your turn.
Melody, so my name is Roy Burnett. I consider myself sort of a beginner researcher. So my mother's from Kiribati and my dad is Australian. And we moved here to New Zealand in 2006. So I grew up down south in Dunedin, but moved up to Auckland to do a master's in Pacific Studies. So I'd say my research areas, I focus on gender and development in Kiribati, and also do a little bit with the labour mobility schemes, so looking at women's experiences on the schemes as well. And yeah, it's an honour to be here to share space with some pretty awesome women. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Roy. Charlotte.
Tara Falava, my name's Charlotte. I'm New Zealand born Samoan, Wellingtonian, raised in Wellington. Parents came to Auckland in the 80s, so Auckland's like home for me now. My background's in the homeless sector and disability, but now I'm in education, focusing on numeracy and literacy for Pacific. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Thanks, ladies.
You're welcome.
Now let's back to you, because you just spoke about literacy and numeracy, talked about working with the homeless and disabled. Obviously, there are quite a few women there. Are there some thoughts that you can share with us just on camera today about what you've noticed, and what's the gender split like, and how do you get to find these people, and how do they come to you so that you can deliver training or some form of assistance or help to them?
So with my current job, we deliver education around security training because it's one of the biggest growing sectors since COVID. And so what we found was that a lot of our Pacific people were going through, but no one was giving them the training or explaining what the law is about. So it was like going and paying $6,000 course to get a COA so they could work. So our focus is targeted at Pacific that are in the sector and elevating them through from having a COA just going, and elevating to a level 3. Because the security sector, it's a wide variety. So we train people from the police even, because even if you're in the police, you still need a COA, and so we found a lot of women come through, and a lot of Pacific women. So there's a lot of, like, for instance, in South Auckland, there's the Fia Club out there, and you will not believe it, but they've got women's security here. Samoan women working the bar and the doors, so they come to us for training, and we, I guess it's around literacy and numeracy, like not being able to read or not understanding they have dyslexia. So part of our job is connecting them to the right services, I guess, or just finding their pathway.
Can I just take it back? What is a COA?
Oh, COA is a certificate of approval. So if you work in the security industry, whether you're security on a nightclub door or at the airport doing pre-flight checks to the hospital, you need a COA to hold it. You need to hold that license to work in the security industry, because it changed from the 90s. I think if you said that a young Indian man came to New Zealand, got a job. He was here, like, arrived in New Zealand today. The next day he got a job. He was killed on the job. So that changed the whole industry. That people need to know about the law and how to keep safe. Yeah.
And are you seeing more women going into that profession today?
Oh yeah. Even out at the airport, we've trained a lot of women for the COAs going through to do the pre-flight checks. So with the airlines opening up to overseas, so a lot of the American flights, overseas flights, we train a lot of women that are going through that sector, and they really love their jobs. They go, they get the like bomb training, looking for stuff like that before the plane goes off. So yeah, and they're not just like on the ground floor. They elevate quite fast to being supervisors. And,
And so these women who are coming and working in these jobs, where have they come from? Is it their first time working, or have they moved from other jobs into the security industry?
I think since COVID, a lot of women became unemployed, and so you got women that are that have done jobs like worked in the hospital, and since COVID, I mean that's like 4 years ago, have taken a whole new approach to a different career path. And so, yeah. And sometimes it's hard. What I found with COVID, when we were working with women, Pacific women found it hard to re-engage into the field that they had come from. And I don't know whether things have changed or, but a lot of women decided to go the security sector because it met their needs around their children. Kids can go to school and they can work at the hospital between 9 and 3.
Okay, that's flexible for them.
Flexible for them. Yeah.
And so let's talk about, we talk about violence, right? And you talk about how some guy came and picked up a security job and then the next day he was killed. Are those factors on those women's minds when they are entering the workforce and entering into security, or is it more out of the necessity to make money for their family? And it's because it doesn't sound like the COA is easy to get.
Yeah, I think it's more out of meeting the need, because all the Pacific women that come through are like around danger.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just tell you, shh, no. Okay.
Speaking to you nicely, right?
Yeah, and the other thing we found is that the older Pacific or Māori women are treated with more respect by the younger people. So if you look at libraries and museums and hospitals, you'll find a lot of older women working in those environments, because you can go from, okay, thank you, that's the wrong, to shh, I told you before. So, they have that element of humour that it's a Pacific thing. Humour is across the spectrum, and, sometimes it's a good safety mechanism to break whatever's going on. Yeah.
That's awesome. But also just goes to show that Pacific women are so strong anyway. And that they hold that mana, that, you know, all they need to do is speak once and they speak nicely and you walk away all listening. Right?
And they can change their tone, from oh, thank you for coming to thank you for coming.
Don't come back. Awesome. Roy,
Yes.
talk to us about some of the work that you've done in Kiribati, and you've been on a VSA assignment.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you did and how that opened up your eyes to some of the work that you're doing at the moment around gender, but also around labour mobility and research into seeing why women, Pacifica women, going into these mobility working schemes.
Yeah, sure.
Can you unpack some of that?
Sure. So yeah, I did a volunteer assignment with VSA, which is Volunteer Service Abroad, which is where CFP actually works. And so I got into that because after my undergraduate degree, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I volunteered and was able to go back to Kiribati. And I lived there for 2 years and was placed with women's NGOs. So during that time, I got to see just how awesome Kiribati women are, because I feel like it's our women that do the most when it comes to community work. So the first year I was there, I was working with a Catholic women's organization who were focusing on nutrition, so rolling out like nutrition promotion amongst communities and trying to get women to be what they called health champions. So they would get women to do a nutrition course, and then those women would go into villages to promote healthy cooking and how to use traditional plants to make traditional food, those kinds of things. And then I loved it so much that when my assignment finished, I wanted to come back and do another one.
You went back.
So I went back and I was placed in another women's organisation at that time where I worked with youth, so young women, because the organisation that I was with wanted to engage more Kiribati young women in the things that they did. So I got to network and meet so many different youth groups in Kiribati, doing amazing things with limited resources, making such a big impact in communities back home. And I think that's where I sort of got into the whole gender and development and that kind of stuff, because you could just see how much of a need there is in Kiribati. And one particular group that I worked with was the Kiribati Family Health Association. So reproductive health and rights is such a big issue in Kiribati, but you have these amazing youth that are going out into communities and talking about really sensitive topics, but with such humour and doing it in such a fun way. So that was one thing that I took back with me when I came back, and I think is what's motivated me to stay in the area of gender. So when I finished, I got a job. Oh, I didn't get a job. I did my master's at the University of Auckland, looking at gender in the Pacific and Kiribati. And so that's kind of, led me down this pathway.
Awesome. Anna, what's your response to Roy talking about some of the taboo subjects that we don't talk about, but we need to talk about, right? And it's our women that are going into these communities and actually talking about these hard topics that we need to talk about. What do you think about that?
Well, when I think about what you said, I think about let's talk about sex, baby, and let's talk about you and me, but in the way around, around our rights as women, around sexual health and reproductive, around access and stuff like that. Because I sort of reflect when I go home to Fiji, that's the first thing my elders were saying, did you bring the condoms? Because most of the people in our village, they work in the resorts, and the woman in our village where my family come from in Korotongo, the women do everything. They fish, they hunt, plant and serve. The men, I always think, lazy motherfuckers. I don't mean it in a bad way. I think there's with many Pacific cultures, there's always this gender inequality, around us as women, for having access to education, access to the right to say no to have sex, to the right to like, I don't want to have children, don't want to be married, but I want to have these things. And I think it's so important because I reflect on my mum. My mum finished school when she was 8 because her family couldn't afford to send her to a school because her brothers got an education over her. So she ended up cooking and serving from an age of 8, which are probably looked at in the Western eyes as child labour. But she had dream and vision to get out of her village. And in that same way, her faith grew with God. And that was around, I don't know, just an amazing thing that happened in her life while she ended up here in New Zealand, met my dad. But I guess from listening to my parents' stories of migration, coming to New Zealand and as a child going back to my village, it wasn't until I was 12 I remember saying to my mum, "This is the ghetto." And my mum would say, "Step out of it. This is where you come from." And, and
So privileged.
and all the times that I've been to Fiji from the time, I had my first passport when I was 4 years old, but, when I look back on my journey of, who am I? I'm not white, I'm brown, am I Oreo, am I a cameo, whatever. I'm black. And, and I can say now at this age, the things that we're privileged to learn here in Aotearoa New Zealand through education and access as women, Pacifica women, is so important because when we go back home and we learn from our people, where we come from, it's so rich that it gives us a purpose in life. But again, I think what I looked at in the Pacific is that governments have international treaties with the UN.
Yes.
And then there's also the obligation around, public health and access to, contraception, whether it's condoms, the pill, or Jadel, or Depo-Vera. The jobs that our public health nurses have in our Pacific nations is really difficult, and even the NGOs that are run in the Pacific are really under-resourced.
Yes.
And I think when you're educated in Aotearoa New Zealand, and you've got all this wealth of knowledge and theory and Palangi education, when we go back home, it's like, what can we do here to make a difference? Because I guess it starts from, it's community-led, and I guess what I've always valued as Pacifica women, no matter what age we are, from our grandmas to, with the young cousins, and we're all cooking and laughing, we all talk about sex. And everyone knows everyone's drama, even down to domestic violence or stuff that's happening. And it's, and I guess we have an obligation to, to educate each other, but empower each other as women and hold that space, the va.
Yeah, it is important, isn't it? And that's where we, as the diaspora who are working and living here, need to look at, when we go back to the islands, what can we do or how can we help?
Diaspora?
We're diaspora because we live outside of the islands.
Oh, okay.
Fancy
islands.
I know.
Just to jump onto what Hannah was saying, though, I think it's just, when I went back, because I think there can be like an opinion or a perception that because we have a Western or Palangi education, that we have the skills to be able to go back and help. And I think that was one of the things that really kind of was confronting for me, is I learned so much going back home, and it's people have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do these things, but it's just a lack of resourcing. And so a lot of the community groups that I worked with, they were the experts in their field, but it was just funding was an issue. And so actually when I went back, I feel like I learned more than I was able to give.
Look, you probably went in there and showed humility, but there are a lot of us that go back and we think just because we've had this education in a Western country, we know it all. And then they're the ones who actually, I believe, spoil it for others who really do want to go back to their home countries and actually give back, that they come back going, oh no, you're living in the village, you're going into places where there's no toilets or running water. Well, actually, that's not what we should be, that's not the picture we should be painting. It should be actually, what can you take back? How can you help the communities there? Look beyond that, because when you go back to the island, you're not going to have there what you have here. So you have to humble yourself and right? But obviously you did that, and you know we've done it when we've gone back to the islands, because there's a whole different the way they look at things is different from us, and when they do see us coming in, we are sometimes seen as a Jesus, right? We're the God, we're coming in, we're the oracle, we've got all the skills and the knowledge, but actually there's a lot more that we can learn, and how do we use what we know in a way that they're going to be able to understand. And I suppose, Afi, with a lot of the VSA assignments, you know, and most of the VSA assignments, I think at the moment are going into the Pacific. What is this gender split that we're seeing from New Zealand? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it more female versus male because of the types of assignments that are going into the Pacific? Can you just elaborate a little for us on that and what in the work that VSA is doing?
So yes, you're right. Actually, probably 90% of our assignments are in the Pacific, and I guess my role as the Pacific Partnerships person, I'm more focused on how many Pacific people are going over, and that it's really minuscule. Like it's probably less than 1%. In terms of gender, development is a very female-dominated area, I've found, in any way. I think assignment-wise, it's still 50-50 split. But I guess, my focus has been trying to get more Pacific people because, as Roy would have shared, is the sharing of knowledge between our Pacific people here, the diaspora. Did I say that right? Diaspora.
Way to use that.
Yeah. I really wanted to use it.
Diaspora, not diaper.
Diaper. Yeah.
No, diaspora.
I said it right,
Diaspora.
The diaspora.
Diaspora.
Diaspora. The diaspora. The sharing of knowledge between the diaspora here in Aotearoa and our Pacific people in the region would be great for both here in Aotearoa, but also in the region. And we need more volunteers like Roy. Go to the Volunteer Service Abroad website. Apply for our assignments, please. But
Well, you need more Pacific women.
We need more Pacific women. And Roy and I often have conversations about how volunteering isn't necessarily a term that Pacific people are, familiar with. It's not what we would call what we do. We volunteer every day. We volunteered since we were born. And will continue to do. And I think Pacific women are the best volunteers there are. I think our entire lives are service, and they'll make great volunteers. Go to Volunteer Service World.
How do we put the plug out to those Pacific women students to come in? Because how long is it to volunteer for?
Well, it depends. There's lots of assignments vary, and there's lots of different ways you can volunteer. Could be online or in country, but I guess that's what my role is, to figure out how we do that. After 60 years of VSA being around, what changes do we need to make, and how do we provide those opportunities for our Pacific people and Pacific women who are already great at doing it?
I think there's such a big need though for more. I always
She's looking for she wants to go
She should just have my job. That's what she should do, actually. We better just swap out.
I'm always looking at it. I'm like, we need more Pacific volunteers in these assignments, because even like in the work that you guys are engaged in, right? If you're working with Pacific communities in New Zealand, you want Pacific people working with Pacific communities. And it's the same for the region. Like if you have someone that goes back to Kiribati or back to Samoa and speak the language, knows the culture, that goes so much further than someone that comes in and doesn't know the context, doesn't know their people, doesn't know their language. Like it makes such a difference. And I think what Afi was saying, Pacific women definitely, like we don't see it as volunteering, but it's service. And I think that's something that, I don't know, I hope VSA can sort of see that it's not, it's something that is embedded within Pacific cultures, and it comes natural to women.
And I know you mentioned that you came out with a lot more than you were expecting. Was a part of that connected to knowing who you were as a Kiribati woman more so? Or
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I didn't grow up in Kiribati, so when I was born, so my mum met my dad in Kiribati, but they moved, and so I grew up in Australia, grew up in Fiji for a little bit, in New Zealand. So I didn't grow up learning my language. But when I went back, so I had no language skills. I couldn't understand anything. But I left having knowledge. I left being able to understand Kiribati now, and I can have a basic conversation with someone, and it definitely changed the way that I guess view myself and my identity and where I belong, and it's also shaped the kinds of work that I want to do as well, and the kind of service that I want to have to people. So yeah, it definitely played a key role in the things that I do now, for sure.
Yeah, because that really aligns with when I speak to Pacific youth, they're always looking for a way to connect back, not so much to have an experience overseas, but to connect back with their culture, because I guess it's a part that's missing with the Pacific diaspora here. And it's a key part, right, of our wairua.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
What aren't we doing to make sure that, because there's the traditional, let's celebrate the language weeks, and there's the big polyfest that happens only in Auckland, and now we're starting to see regions roll out their own little Pacific festivals to celebrate art and culture and dancing. But is it enough? Should we be doing more?
Of course, always doing more, promoting more. I guess when we're looking at the service you're providing, it'll be great if, targeting the Pacific communities for people to go back to the Pacific and give is probably a lot through churches, schools, because a lot of what I've seen is a lot of people grow up through the church, and a lot of the stuff they do is through the church, so they get on board, like their families are very supportive of what they do, but it's a difficult one because you're going up against technology, the trends with youth at the moment, how things are going, so you're facing addiction, that sort of stuff, the internet stuff going on, so it's a different type of young person this generation, very different, because it's almost like we just want you to have a good education. Pass off. I want to hang out with my friends. But you know what I mean, like I see the young person that brought up in the family where they go to church, go to school, get an education, versus the kids that fall through the cracks because there's other stuff going on in their families. But I guarantee you there's a lot of young Pacific women out there that would love the challenge but probably has no knowledge of it. Yeah, so how do we promote that?
How do we promote that? Get more women sharing our stories about going into the Pacific, and it's at some point in our lives we do end up going to the Pacific. And most of the time it is for a holiday. It's then going, okay, we want to go back, but what can you do when you go back? If you're going for a holiday and you're going for a week or 2 weeks, what can you do while you're there to engage more authentically or more meaningfully with the local communities? So, because when you do go back to the Pacific, there's the women there are the ones who are doing everything, right? They're the ones who are having to make the breakfast, raise the families, do the chores, send the husband, send the men out to the plantation or out fishing. So it's, how do we empower but also promote to our Pacific women here that go back home is for a longer period and working on assignment.
Not a holiday.
Not a holiday, but it can be a holiday. Yeah, like a working holiday where you get to give back and engage. And
but who are the community or NGOs, I suppose, or who's the core group that you are engaging with in the Pacific? You know, like whether it's medical, education.
Yeah. So we work across a few thematic areas. So it covers health and wellbeing, business development, agriculture, lots of cool things. But I guess the unique thing about our program is that we're needs based, and we have program managers in country who identify need, and that's based on organisations in country approaching BSA, and maybe our program managers trying to figure out what the priorities are there in country, and from there our assignments are created. So like we have. Roy worked with a women's NGO. We've sent a beekeeper to Papua New Guinea, and I think from the outset it'd be like a beekeeper. But what a beekeeper means is they can teach. Are they bee farmers? I don't know. I should have done my research, but you can teach people how to collect honey, how to market it, and then sell it. And so it's not just about the honey; it's about how do we sell this honey and make money to go back into the community. So it can be anything, but it's based on the need in country, which is, I think, pretty cool. Yeah.
And I suppose a lot of development work back into the region is being focused on women, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when they sent a VSA beekeeper up to Tonga, and when he did the training, they were all women. I think it was like 2 men, but the majority were women, because they're the ones who are being left behind, right? Because the males have gone off on these RSE schemes to Australia and New Zealand, and the women are being left behind to actually provide. Do everything.
How's the Pacific numbers in the sector you work in?
Well, I guess the industry I work in, we have a lot of women, trans women, gender fluid people who have dual income. So they'll have, they'll do sex work, and then they'll have another job, or they'll be studying. But as far as the numbers go, the number of Pacifica sex workers is probably the third highest. When I look at Pākehā, Māori, and then Pacifica, and then Asian.
Wow, top 3. And can you talk about what you do with our Pacific women that are in the sector? They obviously they're working, but they must have a whole lot of a barrage of issues that they're having to deal with as a result of the work or the profession, because it is a profession, right?
Right, yeah.
That they're in. Is there a lot of support out there for them?
I guess from maybe close friends and then the organisation we work for, but a lot of the times it's people who enter the sex industry, it's about, the income and being paid the same as the CEO, do you know what I mean? But also it means getting to a financial stability to do things that they're set a goal for, whether it be the arts, entrepreneurial business, another platform to move and navigate quickly instead of sitting on a job that's going to be underpaid and you won't get there fast.
And you're not being valued as much as you are when you're doing your other work, your professional work.
Right, yeah.
Can you talk to us about some of the work that you've done overseas around human rights and advocating for sex worker rights, and what is the sort of angle for women?
Well, Aotearoa New Zealand is the first place in the world that decriminalised full sex work in 2003. And I guess a lot of the stuff involving our work is that we go overseas and we will talk to sex worker-led groups, other NGOs in countries like the UK, Ghana, Europe, different parts of Europe, USA, the Pacific, Southeast Asia, about the laws, and mainly focusing on sex worker-led groups to arm them, sex worker leaders to arm them, how to lobby their government, how to work aligned with Amnesty International, the UN, World Health Organization, and the objective is to fight for decriminalisation so that sex workers aren't criminalised for selling sex or condoms and lubricant isn't used as evidence that they are criminals, for doing a job that they are consenting to do. Yeah, it's not easy, but I know that you've come along to some of our sex worker-led events, and it's never boring, right? There's always something to learn.
They're never boring.
Yeah.
but one of the other reasons why I do support them is because it is all female led.
Yeah.
And it's almost like prostitution is not just females, it's male and female, but it's our females who are actually having to go out there and advocate and be the voice for other females to be able to have a profession and be able to perform their profession the same way that we all have professions to perform. So my thing is, there's a lot of work, and it's only a few people, right? But it's also around that perception that it's bad work, it's dirty work, when it's not. It's a profession.
Yeah, no, it's never boring, and I think just recently we did a show in a week. It was really unplanned. We had our colleagues come from New York who were part of the Fringe Festival, and then we sort of said to our colleagues, hey, how about coming to Auckland? They're like, sure, we'll come to Auckland. We're like, okay, we'll get a theatre, we'll do ticket. I have no idea about that. Next thing you know, we're doing a production in a week. And people thought we were mad, but we just did it. It was all woman team.
That's why it happened.
Because it's women, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's only women that can pull these things off at really short notice. Yeah.
Yeah, and even though people are like, they'll say, oh, you shouldn't do it and all that stuff, and you just get this drive, like, no, we can do anything. Just whether people turn up or not, the show must go on.
The show must go on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we as women bring to the table, that celebrating International Women's Day is all about, right? How do we continue to invest in women? But it's not just investment as in dollars. Investment covers a whole wide range of things, whether it's saying to, Anna, go out, find a theatre, fill up a theatre in a week.
Right.
And, Anna going, how do I do it? But you know what? I want to get out there and do it. And she calls on her support network to come and help them make to come in and make things happen, right? Because that's the other thing about us women, and more so being Pacific, is that we need that support network. And without that support network, without our sisterhood around us, we're kind of lost. I think
That's true. You got to have the sisterhood. Like when we're doing projects, we go, fuck it, ring us, Jane.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we got it. Yeah, got the plan.
We panic, but we always deliver, right? And like for me, I need to have my sisterhood, right? And if I don't have my sisterhood, I'm lost. Even if it's not like we need to see each other every day, even if we haven't seen each other for like 6, 8, 12 weeks, we know we can just pick up the phone and call him. And I suppose in the Pacific, Roy, we have sisterhoods here. We're all on digital. We can pick up the phone, or we can drive to someone's house. Did you have that kind of support network when you're in Kiribati?
Yeah.
Because when you're in these islands, you're quite far away from one another. How do you keep yourself motivated and have that community of support around you?
I think in Kiribati, it's the same there. I think that's how we work as Pacific people, is we always have a network, we always have community, we work relationship based. So I think in Kiribati it was the same there. You have a sisterhood. I worked in a Catholic women's organization. All the women I worked with, they were all older women, but I would call them my aunties, my grandma. I think that's how we operate as Pacific women, is we work in networks and we work with relationships. So anywhere you go, I think you carry that with you. Yeah.
And it's something that there's an automatic connection, right? I don't have to come to you and say, hey, can we be friends and we just do it naturally. The connection is there. Once we work out, oh yeah, we're going to work together, or I'm going to meet you today. Because pretty much all of us here, apart from me, we all met each other for the first time today, right? Apart from you two, but the connection, but we know each other. And I think that's a superpower that we have with Pacific women that I think the world needs to really have a look at. And I think maybe it's not just Pacific, but I find that in the Pacific, they need a reason to celebrate International Women's Day, right? They need a reason to say, we need to continue to invest in our women, because when we invest in our women, we start to see things accelerate economically, socially, politically. But really, we do that every day.
And with technology, it's really funny because, everyone thinks that's for young people, but, the literacy and numeracy stuff we deliver, we've got like the older woman, the Pacific, and like when we go, what's your method of connecting to those? Facebook, put a message away. And now you can hear it, like they go, yeah, Vili Insta. Like they're coming with the times to connect with the rest of the world. And I guess the greatest thing about Facebook is that people in the islands can connect with their families across the world. And that's what I saw a lot, that, when we were doing the Life Online and the computer stuff, like the skills were very low, but when you say something like you want their number, they go, I love fucking messenger. So, they still know how to connect, but, it's like, that's another way of connecting with the sisterhood around the world. Really stuff.
And I love it that you say, the older generation, and it is the older generation that will be left behind if they're not picking up on the digital fast enough. And I suppose like some of us just don't have the patience to deal with it, but there are courses like Life Online. And
they might not be able to use a laptop or a computer, but man, on their phones, boom. No problem. On the phone all the time. Not a problem.
Digital. Oh wow! You guys can talk.
But you got to have these conversations all the time. Whether it's we're just talking, just shooting the breeze, or but it's important that I guess people listening in that it's real. We talk about real stuff like what's actually happening, not sitting here trying to read a script.
And I think it's really important for first, second, third generation Pacifica born in Aotearoa, New Zealand to go back to the islands who have never been to the islands to see where they come from, their village. Because it will really shape and change you emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. I know, in my family, we go to Fiji every 2 years as a family. And even like, when I leave Nandi, I'll try not to cry now, but I always look over Vanua Levu and I just think, man, that's my home. So, we've got to encourage our Pacifica people born in Aotearoa, New Zealand to go home. Because, like I said, this isn't our whenua. It's, tangata whenua. And so our place of standing, or as the Māori say, tūranga waiwai, is our islands, those Pacific nations.
Karaoke.
But do you break out on that? Like, I do that a lot. Like, people go, why do you do that? And I say, I do it because I'm Samoan. So, if there's a topic going on, I'll just break out, say, like, if you had a Kiwi, like, I'm a woman, I'm not your superwoman, and then I'll break into, and Anna does it with me. Like, down on bended knee.
We used to do R. Kelly a lot, but we stopped.
It's a swing. But my body. But I reckon a topic that be good for, for a next discussion is about Pacific women that get into management and then they're bullied by management because the style they deliver is because the team respects them so much, and that becomes a threat to other people that above them. Like, yeah, I reckon it's a good topic because a lot of our Pacific women that work in the sector that work their way up from the bottom to like middle management get stuck in middle management because the people above them just won't let them rise. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes I find it's that person's character that people respect, and yeah. Yeah, but I think it's a good subject because you know, yous are young, but you're going to come across this. You know, we've all had to face this. At management, you get to a certain level, and I don't know if it's people don't want you to progress, or is it because I'm Samoan, or is it because I'm a woman? But sometimes you find you go up against your own in the sector, and I think that's a good topic to speak about because a lot of we're not alone on this journey. There's a lot of women out there who are Pacific that are facing that discrimination or stigma. Yeah.
If we go back to, you know, what we were talking about, how the network we have is so important, I can speak from experience working in a predominantly Balangi organisation, how lovely it has been to office share with the likes of Joe, because it's like this daily reminder that even though I'm by no means like up anywhere in any hierarchy, but it can feel sometimes really isolating, being just a young Pacific person anywhere, let alone in a mainstream government organisation. But to have someone like Joe, I never say nice things about Joe. And actually,
I'll give you more pastries.
Actually, you were arguing about me being on this this thing today. So yeah, I never say nice things about her, but yeah, just real grateful for women like Jo who, you know, always provide safe spaces for young people, and because we're young, for young people like us to learn and really like learn skills, and not even like serious skills, but like how to navigate a workforce skills. And yeah, that was just my 2 cents of being nice to you, Jo.
Thanks, Alfie. International Women's Day, I'll leave you off. But I suppose in wrapping up, it'll be good for us to just all share something, because like I keep reiterating, why are we celebrating International Women's Day? And I know the UN want to mark this day for globally, for us to really put our women on a pedestal, but also put them on a pedestal, say we need to invest in them, because by investing in women, we're accelerating progress, which is the theme for International Women's Day. But I think we're here as women, Pacific women, is a testament that we are all doing our bit to uplift our own communities, our own social circles, one another. Can you give us some parting remarks as a way to round off the session? We'll start off with Roy.
With me. Yeah, I think it's just so important to celebrate. Well, we celebrate our women every day in our cultures, but also to remember that in the Kiribati community, at least, we have gender diverse people as well. So also remembering to bring them into the conversation when we're talking about women as well, I think is super important. But yeah, I think this conversation has just been really interesting and inspiring, actually. Because I think, yeah, we really need to encourage our Pacific young women in the various sectors that they're in. And I think also what we're talking about is encouraging them to go back to where they're from. And I think I can speak to that because that's definitely changed me and shaped me in the things that I want to do. I think that's so important to have a solid anchor of belonging and where you're from. So yeah, awesome to share space with you ladies.
Thank you, Roy. Say happy.
Oh, next. I'll go from youngest to youngest. Yeah, I think, you know, Roy touched on it. Pacific women are just good at being women. You know, we are celebrated every day in our cultures, and I feel like even though we do it well, that we should keep trying to do better. Like we don't have to use International Women's Day as the benchmark. Yeah, we do it great, but let's be better for our Pacific women.
Anna.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of International Women's Day. I mean, we have to be inclusive of other genders, gender fluid, transgender, not just women, and celebrate our people. And we just, not just this day, every day. And, pay homage to our mothers, our grandmothers, the sisterhood, new and old, that we connect with every day as Pacifica women, that we have to hold that space and support each other.
Sis,
I think everyone said everything, but I just say, keep it gangster, keep it real, keep empowering women, especially because we're all Pacific women. It's important that we do empower our Pacific sisters and say, it's just simple as, hey, just keep your head up, we're here. If you need support, we're here for you. Because sometimes that's all they need to hear, that someone's here to support them. So, yeah, keep it real, keep it gangster.
Keep it real, keep it gangster.
Is there a song?
There's a karaoke song for that.
Bell Bip DeVoe. Gangster. Bell Bip DeVoe.
Can you give us a song?
It goes, one look and she'll, and then the machine gun comes out.
I would say that's when I end the Tok Talk today. Hey, thank you so much, ladies, for coming on and joining me here and us to celebrate, but also mark the amazing work that we're all doing in our respective fields in investing in our women, in our sisterhood, and that we don't need an excuse to celebrate women. We're doing it every day. And that we will continue to do that. And we will continue to support these international days and international events, but it's, I'm really thankful and honoured that you were all able to sit here and join me today, because here at Pacific Corporation Foundation, it's, what can we do as New Zealanders and also as Pacific Ainga to support strengthening of our identity as Pacifica, but also how do we deepen relationships and then use the platforms that are available to us today to amplify our voices and amplify the work that we're doing and the awesome work that we're doing. So, yeah, māloa pito. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naka.
Thank you.